Honestly, what I really want is viewers who understand me well. Even persuading someone of just a small part of my thoughts is actually a huge thing. When I talk to someone I meet for the first time, there really isn't much I can say. Maybe because I grew up in Korea, I actually like small talk. Because in Korea, there isn't much small talk. And sometimes, even making eye contact with someone on the street can feel rude. I once traveled in Australia for about 4 months, and back then, people were very friendly and really liked talking. My English is really bad, but I had more fun and had more conversations with people there than I usually do with Koreans. By the way, this video was written in Korean first, and then translated into English using AI. Anyway, I feel like the person I am now has changed quite a lot. If I went back to Australia, would I be able to happily talk with people like that again? If I could, that would be really nice. I think the reason I changed is probably because of my girlfriend. I might talk about my girlfriend in more detail in another video someday, if I get the chance. Of course, when I went to Australia, it was also around the time I just started dating my girlfriend. So maybe I was able to talk to people so happily because of that feeling of euphoria. One thing is clear: Korea is not really a culture where you can do that easily. Anyway, in my opinion, delivering something to people who are seeing you for the first time is not easy. But honestly, even just talking like this right now is very fun. Right now, I'm writing this script, but because I know viewers will eventually watch this, just imagining that is really fun for me. And right now, I'm using a site called InVideo, where I just put in a script and it creates a video. It's actually my first time trying it, and the AI keeps asking me questions, which is fun. Talking with the AI about the detailed parts of the video I'm going to make is also fun. I think the AI era is really interesting. The game I made was also created while communicating with AI in real time, almost endlessly. AI is really fun. I'm eating tteokbokki right now, and it's delicious. If you come to Korea, you should definitely try tteokbokki. When you first taste it, you might not think it's that good. Usually places that sell tteokbokki also sell fried food. Ask for fried food with it. You can say T Gim or T Kim. I just came back after reheating the leftover tteokbokki and fried food in the microwave. So, what should I talk about in this video? I want to talk about my story related to the Dirac delta function, but probably more people don't know what that is. Unless you studied mathematics or physics, you probably don't know it, but I'll try to explain it as easily as possible. Honestly, YouTube is basically the only place where I can properly talk about something like this. I have worked as a math tutor for several years. Most of my students are middle school and high school students. The only chances I had to explain things were during tutoring, but since I had to speak spontaneously, if my explanation got too long, I couldn't finish the actual math lesson I was supposed to teach. Also, none of my friends majored in physics, and my girlfriend doesn't understand this kind of thing either. So honestly, YouTube feels like the only platform where I can talk about it. But even if you didn't major in physics, that's okay. Since you are people who are willing to listen to my story, I think some of you may still find this interesting. Honestly, I don't really know how to define my target audience. If I explain only a little bit of the academic background knowledge, then I can deliver what I want to say more clearly, but fewer viewers will be able to understand it. But if I explain too much background knowledge, it becomes hard to focus on the main point. So for now, please just listen. And if there's anything you don't understand, leave feedback in the comments. When I was in high school, I was the kind of student who liked common documentaries about relativity and the universe. Since I was young, I liked books about space and science fiction movies. I wasn't the kind of student who dug extremely deep into things like an obsessive nerd and knew a huge amount of information. I was just a student who liked imagining things. I was pretty good at math, so when I applied to universities, I mostly applied to physics departments, and I ended up going to a physics department. I wanted to become someone like Einstein, but my grades were not good. If there was something I didn't understand or couldn't accept, I couldn't easily move on. Whenever I learned one thing, I had to hold on to it for a long time until I felt convinced by it. Because of that, I couldn't keep up with the pace, and my speed of acquiring knowledge was slow. And I'll give you one example of that. In mathematics, there is something called the Dirac delta function. At first glance, it looks like a function, but strictly speaking, it is not really a function. What is it? A function means that when a certain x value is given, one y value is determined. For example, if you put x power 2 into a certain function, that function might output y raised to 20. And if you put in x raised 3 instead of x raised 2, it might output y raised 30. But the Dirac delta function felt strange to me. When you input x0, it outputs infinity as the y value. This is a function that is used a lot in physics, and my textbooks and professors explain the intuitive way to define this function. So intuitively, I could understand what kind of thing it was, but I couldn't move on from there. Because infinity is not a number that is defined in mathematics. If you treat infinity as a single value, contradictions occur in mathematics. Let's think about 1 divided by 1. 1 divided by 1 is 1. Then what is 1 divided by 0.1? 1 divided by 0.1 is 1 over 0.1. So if you multiply both the numerator and denominator by 10, it becomes 10, not 1/10. Then what is 1 divided by 0.01? It is 100. What about 1 divided by 0.01? It is 1,000. What about 1 divided by 0.01? It is 1,000 thousandths. What about 1 divided by 0.1? It becomes an extremely huge number. If we keep going like this, we may start to think about 1 divided by 0. What is 1 divided by 0? It seems like it should be an incredibly large number. So you might think of that value as infinity, but if you put infinity into the system of arithmetic, things become troublesome. Finite numbers are easy. You can add them, multiply them, and calculate with them. But if you put infinity in as one number, then you need special rules that apply only to infinity. That means you have to modify the logic of the existing arithmetic system, and that is not easy at all. Let me give an example. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Then we could say 2 times 3 equals 6. 100 divided by 5 is 20. So if you multiply 5 and 20, you get 100. Now, remember this rule. Let's think about infinity now. Do you remember when I said earlier that infinity could be thought of as 1 divided by 0? Then let's define infinity as 1 divided by 0. According to the rule above, infinity times 0 becomes 1. But 0 can be rewritten as 0 plus 0. So 1 is infinity times 0, right? But that can also be written as infinity times 0 plus 0. And if we use the distributive law, it becomes infinity times 0 plus infinity times 0. And since infinity times 0 is 1, this becomes 1 plus 1. So it becomes 2. That is how the contradiction 1, 2 appears. So I couldn't accept the Dirac delta function. I thought it could not be called a function, and it could not be included in the mathematical system. But at university, they were teaching this to me, and in order to find an explanation that I could accept, I had to study math books about how functions are defined. But then I thought about it. It wasn't just functions. The mathematical knowledge I had learned until then was also knowledge that I had not really verified by myself before accepting it. So in order to understand the structure of mathematics, I studied a book on real analysis. Even though I studied less than 20% of that book, I found many parts in its logic that did not feel fully rigorous to me. Some of you may not know what analysis is. Roughly speaking, you can think of it as the study of things like how addition is defined, how natural numbers are defined, and how real numbers are defined. That's not a perfect explanation, but it's close enough for now. But I wasn't satisfied even with the analysis book. I couldn't accept the logic of that book either, so I needed more fundamental knowledge of logic. So I started studying foundational mathematics, mathematical logic, and set theory. And even there, I had many questions. As I kept investigating, I eventually reached symbolic logic, which is no longer just mathematics, but also a field of philosophy. When I tried to study philosophy books, I lacked philosophical background knowledge, and with my level of English, studying became extremely difficult. That was more than 10 years ago. Back then, the quality of Google Translate was not that good, and studying by just roughly understanding the context was not my style, so studying became too difficult for me. And from that point on, I thought I needed to study English first. Since then, I feel like my academic journey has almost stopped. Of course, even now, I still cannot speak English well. Nevertheless, I think I have lived a meaningful life in my own way. What I originally wanted to make was a video about an interesting story related to mathematics or physics, but somehow it turned into a strange story about my life. Still, if I give you this much background knowledge about myself, I think I will feel psychologically freer when I talk about the things I want to talk about later. If I unconsciously feel that the people listening to my story already know these things about me, then I think I'll be able to talk more excitedly about the things I really want to talk about.